All right, welcome back. So we have Doc Talks this week. Special guest, the Brian Chandler. He is, I'll let him introduce himself. Go ahead.
Oh, how's it going, everybody? I'm Brian Chandler. I'm the Performance Director here at Elevate Sports Performance and Healthcare. Dr. Booth and myself, we started Elevate about 3 years ago, and we've been able to add some incredible people to the team, like Dr. Zach here, we work with a lot of different types of athletes. Myself, mostly rotational athletes, being golf and baseball, and just rotational sports alone. So I've been the performance coach for UNLV men's and women's golf for the past 4 years. 4 years now. Wow, it's going by fast. And I've been lucky enough to travel a little bit with some PGA Tour players and help golfers of all abilities, ages, from high school kids to the recreational golfer that likes to just play with his buddies on the weekend.
Cool. Awesome. And that's why you are the perfect person to bring into Doc Talks to talk about golf and the mistakes that so many golfers make when it comes to the fitness side. Because, I mean, you can do a lot of good things just by working on your golf game, but our area that we work in gives could potentially increase performance of someone golfing to a high degree, but a lot of people don't get it right.
Right, and I think the number one thing that we talk about when it comes to golf performance is you want to set up a program that's actually going to help you get better for your golf game. And that's a different conversation than just saying, I want to get stronger just to be stronger, or healthier just to be healthier. Both of those are great things, and they're going to be a byproduct of working on your golf fitness anyways, but there's a difference from making a golfer better through a fitness program as opposed to just exercising just to exercise. And it's kind of this difference between exercise and training. You know, this is definitely training for golf performance. So the program has to have things in it that are actually going to lead to increased club head speed, better positions for you and your swing coach if you're working on positional stuff, and all of that has to kind of come together to make you better.
Yeah, within the last couple of years, I mean, I feel like golf fitness in general has kind of exploded though, right? I mean, it's been something that you see on Instagram, you see on Facebook, all sorts of crazy things going on. There's goods, there's bads, but it is something that is just like skyrocketing for the whole industry.
Yeah, no, golf fitness is really, I mean, right now everybody in the golf world is talking about the guys that hit it the farthest. Bryson DeChambeau is one of those guys who's really taking it to another level with gaining 40 plus pounds in his off season, and really these guys are taking
Gains.
They're serious gains.
I want that diet.
Yes, and he's got the results to prove it though. I mean, he's the longest hitter on tour now, and he's turning a lot of heads. But there's still a time and place for everything, right? Just increasing mass is not the only answer to make you a better golfer and with your golf fitness program, but it's huge on Instagram now. There are people that only work with golfers as their niche specialty, which 10 years ago that was few and far between, definitely.
Yeah,
Huge.
I mean, I think that's really it's really cool to see that take off though, because there was a something that needed a void that needed to be filled there. Just like any sport, you want to have like cross training, you want to have stuff that builds the sport, not just playing the sport over and over again. You can go out and play hoops until you have shin splints and your feet are bruised, but that's not going to make you a better basketball player, maybe long term, or it's not going to make you have the longevity that you might want. So that's definitely a reason that we're trying to bring some of this topic to light, trying to get more of a better thought process or approach to your golf fitness game. So first things first, let's go with the first topic. Maybe not having a lack of a movement goal. That seems like it's one of the biggest or one of the biggest mistakes. Speak to that. What kind of movement goals should people be having, and how do they establish that? All the things movement goal oriented.
Yeah. So the number one thing when somebody comes in, no matter what level of golfer, and so a lot of these people have had a golf fitness program before, and they've gone through the process either on their own, where they're just trying to figure it out and kind of do some things in the gym that's trying to translate into their swing. The number one glaring issue that people have a mistake on is their overall movement goal in general. So by movement goal, we're talking about efficiency. So we want to be able to work on our body, not just getting stronger. Getting stronger is usually the easier process to get people to get stronger. It's a very simple
time.
Yeah, time. Some progressive load, and we'll get you stronger. But there's a lot of people that work out and they gain strength and they don't really see any translation into their golf game. So they're not swinging any differently. They haven't gained any clubhead speed, and they just don't know how to become efficient. I talk a lot to all our golfers about efficiency. You don't have to be the strongest to hit the ball the farthest. That's just we know that. I have golfers in college that weigh 140 pounds and they're not very strong, all right, but they can hit it 340 yards. And how is that possible? Right? That's because they're extremely efficient, and we have testing that we do to actually show the difference between are you efficient or do you have to rely on like brute strength to try to create a golf swing, which that leads to inconsistencies with how you're getting the ball on the club face. So movement goals, you need to understand what you're good at and what you're not good at movement-wise. Okay, if you have limitations in your upper body, in your shoulders, your neck, it's going to correlate into your golf swing. Okay, and these different movement-related goals need to be worked on as you're working on your golf training. It can't just be squat, deadlift, bench, and I'm just going to get strong, and then those are the people that I've put this much weight on my deadlift, I've added weight to my squat, I can bench more, and then they go out and they hit it the exact same distance that they did 8 weeks prior.
Or it's just all over the place, right? Now it's just going crazy.
Or they've made their inefficiencies more inefficient because they layered strength on top of dysfunction, and then now they're in this vicious cycle of golf fitness doesn't work and all these other things. It's just they were just filling the wrong bucket at the wrong time. That's really what it comes down to.
So when you say efficiency in the golf swing and with your training, what do you mean by that? So like when I think efficiency, I'm thinking of like a Tesla is very efficient because it's an electric car and it can go for a long period of time, but you're not necessarily talking endurance. So what makes an efficient golfer a thing, and then how do we achieve that in with training?
Yeah, and so golf is obviously a sport where you need to be explosive, dynamic, and have a lot of control. So efficiency to me is going to be everybody has their club head speed and they have how far they can hit their driver. If you hit your drive 300 yards, for example, how much effort are you putting in to getting the ball to go 300 yards? Are your knuckles white? Are you jumping off the floor? Are you missing it? Like if you're hitting 5 drives, are 2 of them out of play? Those are all signs that you're creating power from a source that you don't really own, and you're tapping into resources that you shouldn't be doing to try to be a consistent golfer. When you watch the best on tour, like you watch a Rory hit a driver, he doesn't look like he's exerting the amount of power that if you see somebody a recreational player, they look like they're about to fall over because they're trying to hit it as hard as they can. It's having that type of output, but with balance, control, awareness, and the consistency that is associated with the power. The guys that hit it the furthest and the straightest is the name. Those are the people that are really going to succeed.
Gotcha. So it's about producing the best result at the least amount of effort that you possibly can, which we see that across the board with pros everywhere. I mean, you look at how effortless a lot of basketball players in the NBA make the game look. It's no different in golf.
No, we want. It's about how much effort are you putting into producing the speed that you're creating and then the distance.
I have a patient right now. It's funny we're talking about this. He's in really good shape. Like trains all the time. He actually trains with us. Trains all the time. Really good shape. Goes out there and tries. Like you said, white knuckle. Just absolutely tries to swing out of his shoes, and then he plays with someone that's 20 years plus of him. And they go out there and outdrive him, and he's just like, "What is going on? Like, I don't understand." He's trying so hard. He's got like crazy good engine, meaning he's strong, he's built, and he can't outdrive a 70-year-old guy that's just out there just tinks it right. Like you said, he's efficient. He uses what he has as well as anybody could. So Yeah, that's funny. I mean, the efficiency thing rings across not just like a small person to a larger person. It's, you know, it could be, you know, age-wise, you mature, you figure out your swing a little bit. That's big.
Yeah, and if the rule was the strongest person will be the best at golf, there would be a lot other people. There would be other athletes on the PGA Tour right now,
Yeah.
or playing high-level golf. It's not about the strongest. I have most of the players that we do help here. They're compared to other athletes that train here, such as basketball athletes or football or anybody else. Like their definition of strength is completely different. But those people aren't the best golfers most of the time. So yeah, the efficiency game, you want to chase efficiency over just strength, and people go right in deep with I got to get my squat, bench, deadlifts, all these things better without really looking at the efficiency. So let's talk about the first. How do you not have efficiency? I think is a good question to ask, and that's having tons of movement restrictions. That's the glaring obvious one, and most people just have no idea that they have movement inefficiencies. They're just unaware. They had no idea that their feet are extremely tight, or they have a tight right hip, or they have tight shoulders, or their neck doesn't rotate. Those I describe it as if I had a whip like Indiana Jones, and you create all this work at one end to hear the crack at the other end. Mm-hmm. Having movement restrictions is like tying knots in that whip. So you're creating all this effort and work with no crack at the end. And when you watch somebody play golf who has tons of movement restrictions, it's exactly what's happened. He's creating tons of work, and there's no pop. There's no pop. And I have these younger kids who, they're not the biggest, they're not the strongest, but they're so efficient. Their crack at the bottom is extremely loud, and the ball just jumps off the face, and everybody's like, wow, how is that possible? And those are the people that have the fewest movement restrictions, tons of body awareness, they know how to control their body, and then they start layering strength on top of that efficiency.
Yeah, so I mean, the people with like the big engines, white knuckles, those people typically have you seen have like more irritations in tissues, or like they ache more pain-wise?
Exactly. So now when you're the person with the whip with all the knots in it, and you're creating all that force and all that effort, all that work and load has to go somewhere. Mm-hmm. And typically it's going to be in the smaller joints, let's say wrist, elbow, neck, things that you guys are always trying to keep people healthy. All of that work and load has to go somewhere. And if it's not being distributed through the body to hear that crack at the end, it's going to be absorbed through the body somewhere, which, again, usually it's an elbow, a wrist, a neck, low backs, obviously, is a big one in golf. So all that work and effort is going to go to the wrong places, which could cause injuries, strains, issues there. So staying healthy is obviously our big goal to be a good golfer. Yeah.
Cool. So figuring out how to be efficient, that's a mistake number one. Going on to mistake number two, looking at not having speed or acceleration training in your program. That's something that Chan has really made it's Brian, not Chan. We all call him Chan, so you guys are invited to say that as well if you guys ever come in and meet with him. But
that's a requisite. You have to meet.
You have to meet with them. You have to know them. You can't
before you get the Chan status.
Yes.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about the speed, how to implement speed and acceleration training into your program.
Yeah, so in golf fitness, the more popular golf fitness gets, I feel like the worlds are kind of getting far apart. On one side, the training experience is very, I would say, rehabilitative in nature. So there's a lot of bosu balls people are standing on. There's a lot of light band work, a lot of on the ground based work, again, which all this stuff has a place somewhere. But that's the majority of the golf training experience, right? And they think that if I stand on this mat or ball or something, that's going to give me more stability so I can swing faster. Then on the other end, you have more of an aggressive mindset, which is the squat, dead, bench. I don't know if I would say like just Olympic lifting in general, where they're getting right into the train. You need to be strong to be an athlete, and that's going to correlate into your game. The reality is there's something in the middle that needs to happen where you have elements of both, right? You need the rehabilitative approaches such as breathing, such as positional awareness, improving your mobility. to add into the middle, and then you also need force production. You need all of those characteristics to actually be an athlete. And what we need to see more of is kind of like this middle ground between the two. But if I look at somebody's program that they've been doing, one of the number one things they're missing is just raw speed and power training in general. There's lots of stretches for their T-spine, hips, all the big things that we've heard of. Now, with things such as Instagram is a great resource for us, but they have tons of stretches, maybe a positional, a squat or a push-up or something strength-based, and then that's it. So they stretch, they strength train, they go home. The power and speed is one of the fastest ways to actually increase your club head speed is to actually have real power and speed training. Now, what I mean by that is you can break it down to sprinting. Okay? Every golfer should be doing some level of sprinting at least once a week. Now, granted, everybody's training age and where their starting point is going to be a little different, but you need to find ways where you can actually tap into speed training and power training. And power training, we use a lot of kettlebells here in the gym. It's one of our favorites because the implement is light enough where you can create a lot of high speed and power, but there's just a lot of different variations of movements you can do that are for beginners, but then for high level people that can handle more technical lifting. And then there's things like barbells and other implements that you can actually do more power-based stuff. Med balls are obviously one that we're a big fan of to actually throw the ball with enough velocity to be categorized as power training. But I think what's missing is this element of speed and power. Giving your athlete a chance to actually just let it out, give it everything they got in a safe position so you can actually work on recruiting the things needed to be fast. A lot of people don't know what it's like to be fast. And if you take an athlete who is fast, he's fast in everything. He can be fast in other things. So if I took the guys that hit it the furthest on the PGA Tour and you watch them play pickup basketball, you would see some acceleration, some cutting, some jumping, and you'd be like, wow, like Brooks Koepka, Dustin, those guys can move. They can move, right? They can jump, they can cut, they can speed, they can sprint, and they happen to hit the ball extremely far. So that's one glaring box that I think is missing in general with speed training. Just getting people to move faster consistently, at least 1 to 2 times a week if you're doing something like high output like sprinting, or consistently in your day-to-day program like kettlebell training, medicine ball work. The only thing that I have to clarify in medicine ball work is, which we talk about this a lot, the medicine ball work needs to have the intention behind it to be classified as true power training.
So what do you mean by intention in that regard?
So one, I would say the medicine ball has to be light enough that you can throw it fast. Mm-hmm. If you're using a 14-pound medicine ball, you are not going to throw that fast. It's too much load.
Slug.
It's going to look like you're playing catch really nicely with, like, let's say a wall, for example, if we're throwing it into the wall. It needs to be more in that 6 and 4 pound range, very, very violently and very aggressively to actually get that output that you need. Like, if it looks like it never looks like you're playing catch when you're hitting a driver. Mm-hmm. Right? You're making a violent, aggressive swing that is athletic. So you have to have those qualities. There's a lot of things I see on Instagram with people doing like medicine ball work, and the medicine ball is not the problem, it's the way they're doing it is the problem. They need to get more aggressive and try to throw the ball through the wall. I mean, power's power. If you watch a football player or somebody who's powerful all the time throw a ball, you're like, whoa, you think the medicine ball is going to break. And you got to have that mentality and that intention with your power training.
Yeah. Well, we'll have 220-pound big athletes throwing 4-pound balls. It's not that it needs to be, like you said, a 20-pound ball. The heavier the implement doesn't mean you're going to create more and more power. It's the mindset though too. I like how you set that mindset right from the beginning. You're gonna get yourself in that position where it's creating fast explosion. I don't know how else to say that, but you start to train that mindset of how to be fast. It's not that you're all of a sudden training your muscles, ligaments, tendons to all of a sudden just be strong enough to do this. It's also the nervous system starting to light up a little bit. You get into that mindset and you can start to create that power. Obviously you're training all the other stuff that I just said, muscles, ligaments, and tendons, but at the same time it's the mindset going into it.
Yeah, and it's a really good point just to fast is fast. If you do it slow, it's not fast. It's not powerful. So it's just like swinging a driver with the smoothest tempo, and it's not going to go anywhere. And you have to have that same mentality as you transition into the gym. If you want to hit the ball further, you need to be in a situation where you can just get it out and give us a really explosive movement that looks athletic, and it gives us that high output. I'm less picky on form when it comes to some of that stuff too. I honestly think that you're better off with somebody who gives you 100% intention on being aggressive, powerful, than having them slow down to a nice soft toss because you want the ball in this perfect position. I mean, there's time and place for everything with the technicalities, but what's lacking for most people, especially golfers, is they're lacking the intention in that violent, I'm going to throw this through the wall, as opposed to like, okay, you need to slow everything down because you're not throwing it the way. I let people throw it sometimes as long as it's hard. My margins of how they can throw it are a little bit bigger, because if you don't have the intention, you won't get the changes that you're looking for, even if the form is 100% perfect. And I think that's a really important message when it comes to medicine balls being a very popular implement in golf fitness. Intention drives everything. If you're not throwing it hard, you will not get what you're thinking you're getting in return.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the speed and acceleration thing goes back to your point about efficiency as well. A lot of times, in order for you to produce the most force, and this is why we use lighter weights or smaller med balls, is because to go fast at something, you have to maintain some semblance of relaxation. And the classic example is sprinting. One thing when I was in track that they always coached us is to make sure your face was relaxed. So if you got to grind out through sprinting or jumping or even to some extent some of the med ball throws, you can still be violent, but making sure you're having some relaxation component as you produce that force is critical to being fast.
Yeah, no, 100%. I look at like the golf game is you're making however many swings outside of putting and maybe some chipping that you're going to make. Each swing is a small, explosive power exercise. And if that's your mentality when you get somebody and they want to add speed, club head speed, you have to be getting those amount of reps in your training. The strength is important, the mobility is important, but output is important. You have to. If somebody has never been fast and they never swung the golf club fast, you have to teach them what speed feels like and what power feels like. That's a whole new world for them. And I think we get so focused on technicality, especially with some of the power-based movements, that we're losing the actual effective intention, which is really what matters for power training.
Are there any tells for like a golfer that is putting too much, like you said, the sprinter face, if they're like really squinting and kind of holding a lot of tension? Are there any kind of tells for a golfer?
Well, one thing I think is like on course too, like when you're actually playing.
Yeah.
Luckily, our swing coaches that we work with in town are fantastic about really talking about the efficiency concepts. Luckily, they really are involved in our process here to talk about like the technicalities of that. But you can tell for sure if somebody's trying way too hard to hit their driver, is that if your hands are white and you don't have a firm but relaxed grip, kind of like what you're talking about with the face, that's a huge tell. Breathing's another one actually. If the people that hold their breath, like, and they're really, you can just tell if somebody's really tense and they're holding their breath, and I'm like, you need to relax, take a breath, get comfortable, because if you have all that tension before you even go, you won't be able to absorb and load and transfer. So you have to have some level of relaxed state to actually be able to produce force in the first place. It's like if you jump, basketball players, they don't tense up and then jump. They do it while they're running, so it's way more fluid and way more natural looking, and you want to feel comfortable when you're out there to be able to give an athletic effort, if you will. But the whole grip, your pressures in your hands are really important. If you're death gripping the grip, right, as Mario here in town told me I look like I'm wrestling an alligator. So if you're like me and you get a golf lesson and they tell you stop strangling, then that's probably a really good sign that you're not going to be able to produce effortless power, and you have too much tension. I think breathing's another one that's underlooked, because a lot of golfers hold their breath as they're set up through the swing, after the swing, and then they have this big okay, that's over, and that's not an efficient way to go about it. If you try to do that in the gym, you'd have a lot of problems too.
Yeah.
You'd get lightheaded and probably have some issues there.
Pass out.
Yeah,
Yes.
you'd have some
Yeah.
problems. So
Don't
you
need
need
that.
to be relaxed.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, so last mistake we're going to go over, number 3, is training in golf posture. I think this might come from polarizing Instagram stuff a lot, but what's your take on training in a golf posture?
Yes. Hashtag golf fitness. Now, I love this because it's a conversation. Brad Thompson, who's on our team, incredible golf performance coach too. So we talk about this a lot. Is what makes something golf fitness? And now with the way we're moving with social media, we feel there's pressure that is this is this going to help my golf game? Well, a lot of people associate if it looks like something I'm going to do in golf, it should help me, and that's just not true. That's just not true. One, you need to understand what you need as an athlete. Okay, you need to be properly assessed. You need to know where your inefficiencies are, how you create power, what weak positions are you in, can you get into, and train it that way. So I may do something out here in the gym with somebody that it's not in golf posture, okay, but it's very, very big for important for this person to do this because I need that to be able to have them produce it in their golf swing. Even if it's just a split squat, if it's just something as basic as getting their pelvis in the right position, using their core in the right way. Things like this social media we have this pressure to if it needs to look like a bent over posture and I'm doing band exercises. Most of the time that doesn't translate into the positions and movements that they want in their golf game. So training in those positions is not necessarily the best way to go about your movement goals or trying to become efficient. And then if you're somebody who plays a lot of golf, like let's say a tour player, we can speak this just especially on the medical side because overuse injuries are a really, really big deal. And if I have a college level player or higher, or even high school players now, they're playing so much golf. The last thing I want them to do under load with me is to be in the same position that they're putting their spine and their pelvis in all the time.
Yeah. Stressing the same tissues, going through the same movements.
Yes.
Yeah. If anything, we should try to train opposite of all of that stuff.
Yeah. Well, you think about it, if practicing the movement that you're already doing is the fix for anything, well then all your movement problems would get better by just golfing because that is the most specific way to doing it.
Right.
And a lot of times that will make you better as a golfer, but if you have some restriction that's impeding your swing, the golf swing might not be the most efficient position to improve that restriction.
Yeah.
Or it might not be the best position for you to increase power in that direction. And that's where a split squat or half med ball toss or something like that might be a better tool for the job.
Yeah. Well, what happens when when they're playing that much golf and they do get hurt? What do? We don't let them hit balls. Mm-hmm. We don't let them go in that golf position, and we do other things from a treatment and rehabilitation standpoint to get their body to start working properly again, increasing their range of motion again and their control and their strength and all those elements, so then they can get in those positions again. We should have a similar approach to the golf fitness too. If you have bad shoulder mobility and you're weak in your hips and you're like that's all going to translate into your swing. Just as if you were injured, we're going to take you away from that. Work on these things either individually and collectively so you can be a better athlete and just mover, then let it go back into your golf game. I think that mentality is much more accurate for actually getting these gains to go to your golf game. The number one thing what I hear is I'm stronger, I'm more fit, I hit it the exact same. And the reason is because those were overlooked. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I look at their program and every position is in golf posture and they need variety. The more movement variety you have, the more options you have to get in these positions, the better the odds are going to be for you to hit your positions and produce consistent swings over and over again. If you have one option, that's not what we want.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. I think it kind of goes back to like the having a movement goal though too, having the assessment, all the mistakes that we talked about. If there's no intention in your programming, you're just training, like you don't have a goal in mind, and you don't have any parameters that you're really trying to get better at. other than just being under load and doing some bicep curls and deadlifts and stuff like that. And that's if that's what you want, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
But if your intention is golf fitness, you need to have those objective measures on what you're trying to accomplish with.
There's nothing wrong with bicep curls, by the way. Just don't expect for your golf swing to change completely if you do some curls for the girls.
Hey, sometimes you gotta
Or buys for the guys.
Or buys for the guys.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, and just I love that comment too because it's just the same way in practice. Right? If you go out to the driving range and just
crush balls,
hit random shots with no guidance or goals for that training session, what do you expect to get out of it? You're just hitting random clubs, different distances with no actual goals or intentions behind it. The golf fitness is the same way. So if you walk into the gym and you're like, I'm just going to do this because I saw it somewhere, you need to backtrack a little bit and start reassessing your plan to try to make golf fitness make you better. That's really what it comes down to. What makes you a golf, in my opinion, what makes me a golf fitness professional is you take an athlete and you're able to identify what they need to make their golf game better. Okay, it's just beyond the training. It's beyond just the stretches. It's taking somebody and saying these weaknesses and limitations are going to cause you to not be able to do these things in your golf game. Mm-hmm. And then once we fill the right buckets that need to be filled first, and then you layer it with strength and all these other power qualities, then we start seeing club head speeds, ball speeds, the things that people care about, they start jumping up, and that's when we get excited. You can hit the ball further without getting stronger. That's people don't understand that concept very well, that if you just move better, you will hit the ball further. Yeah. And we see it with some of our older clients that they have more movement restrictions. Once we just take out some of those knots in that rope, they're like, I hit it 10 yards further. And they haven't done one strength exercise. Yeah. They're just gaining efficiency, and that's the home run.
That's the key.
Yeah.
There it is, guys. 3 fitness mistakes that golfers are making. Lack of a movement goal, not training speed and acceleration, and then always training in a golf posture that you see on Instagram. Let's see if we can start making those changes in your approach. If you guys have any questions on how to create the program, if you need intention for your program, we're the people to come ask. He's the person to ask. Brad Thompson, some of our other golf fitness professionals. Come reach out to us at
702-558-2151.
There it is.
Damn.
So we'll see you guys next week, Wednesday, for another pre-Thanksgiving Doc Talks.
Indeed. Looking forward to turkey.
See you guys.